Hello and welcome grade 8s. Today we'll be exploring the topic rural settlements found under term 3 on page 27 of the CAP Social Sciences document. In this lesson, we'll look at how people live and work in communities that depend on the land and natural resources. For today's lesson objectives, you should be able to explore rural settlements and their general characteristics, identify types of rural settlements, specifically farming and forestry, analyze environmental and human challenges, and think about and suggest possible solutions for sustainable rural development. So looking at this picture, which is the rural settlement and how do you know? So if you guess correctly, the one on the left is a rural settlement and the one on the right is an urban settlement. To recap urban settlement, it has a high population, as you can see all these people, it has modern transportation, it has different types of buildings, and it offers many types of services. So then what are the characteristics of rural settlements? Firstly, it has a small population. With the rise of urbanization, there are many people who are leaving rural areas to live in towns and cities. Very often, there are more children and old people because young adults choose to move to urban areas for better job opportunities. Settlements can either be dispersed or nucleated. For the picture on the right, we see a settlement that is dispersed or scattered as the houses are far apart. All the settlements can be nucleated or clustered, meaning the houses are close together, like in this photo. This is usually when the area is very community and family oriented. Rural settlements also have limited services to things like schools, hospitals, shopping malls, police stations. They have to travel far distances to receive these services. These settlements engage in primary activities, unlike urban areas which engage in secondary and tertiary activities. So what are these primary activities that rural areas engage in? These are jobs that involve using natural resources, meaning things that come directly from the environment and the earth, and they provide the raw materials essential for other economic sectors. The four most common primary activities in South Africa that you should know is farming, forestry, fishing, and mining. And you can remember these activities by thinking about it in terms of Radio 3 FM, where we have the three F's: farming, forestry, fishing, and lastly, mining. So let's talk about subsistence farming. What is this? This is when farmers grow crops and raise animals, also known as livestock, for their own family use. It's very labor intensive because they use traditional tools, as you can see in this video, like hoes, spades, and animal-drawn plows. They have small fields of mixed crops, as you can see in this picture, crops like maize, vegetables, beans, so that they can have a balanced diet. When people engage in subsistence farming, they try to live close together in nucleated settlements so that they can help each other in terms of labor and food. This is very important for survival and food security. And they keep livestock like cattle, sheep, goats, and chicken for food and other purposes, like the one in the video. The next type of farming is commercial farming. This is large-scale farming where crops are grown for profit. These crops are known as cash crops. These farms are usually isolated because they need large plots of land that is near necessary resources like fertile soil. They use modern technology, as you can see in this video, like tractors, computerized irrigation, and harvesters. So machines replace manual labor, unlike in subsistence farming. So on these farmsteads, they include houses, barns, and storage facilities like these silos that reserve quantities of feed and grain for livestock and other purposes. These farms also have large fields where they grow only one type of crop, for example, wheat, maize, or sugarcane, as you can see here, and we call this monoculture. And the work is done by these machines that are very precise and efficient. Here's an example of commercial farming settlement. You can see an isolated house, a large field growing one crop, and some storage facilities. Here is a thematic map showing the distribution of some rural activities in South Africa. There is a lot of grain, cattle, and sheep farming. Which province has the highest production of sugarcane? Which province has the highest production of fruits? What are some of the conditions that farmers need to produce such large yields? For example, high summer rainfall. You can think of the other conditions. This is a bar graph showing livestock farming in South Africa. The most popular animal sold is cattle. Why do you think that is so? What are the different purposes of cattle? You can think about that. Now, farming also comes with its own set of challenges. For environmental, farming causes land degradation and soil erosion because it disturbs the natural vegetation and exposes the soil to wind and water that can be washed away. There are also farmers that use fertilizers and pesticides for the pests you see on the right, and this can cause water pollution for different water bodies like rivers, lakes, and ponds. And the chemicals can also affect soil fertility. Farming is also very susceptible to climate conditions like droughts and flooding that will affect crop yield. In terms of human challenges, it's very expensive to purchase things like fertilizers, seeds, and machinery. And for subsistence farmers, they are always vulnerable to food insecurity. Due to the history of South Africa, like apartheid, there are also land disputes and conflict about farming land and ownership rights that pose a challenge to many farmers. So let's discuss some of the solutions to these farming problems. Farmers should try to use sustainable methods. This could include things like crop rotation, meaning you plant different crops instead of one to rejuvenate the soil. Farmers can also use organic fertilizers like manure and compost and natural pest control. They can introduce different types of irrigation systems and drought-resistant crops that require less water. The government can also step in and support the farmers by granting subsidies. They encourage cooperatives so that land is divided and farmers can share costs and sell together. And there should also be the promotion of training in modern farming methods. So let's talk about forestry settlements. These are settlements that develop around forest and timber plantations. In South Africa, these key regions include Mpumalanga South, the Midlands and Zululand in KwaZulu-Natal, and the Knysna Forest area in the Eastern Cape. These settlements grow and use trees for wood, fuel, and medicine, and are sometimes called forestations. Some of the jobs that people will do in forestry settlements include tree planting, which is a form of reforestation, logging, sawmilling, and timber processing, meaning converting the logs into things like pulp and paper or construction wood. And they also manage fires. They will use various tools like chainsaws, trucks, sawmills, and protective equipment. These settlements also reduce transport costs because the processing plants and worker housing and supply depots are usually close together, and this reduces the logistical costs. So let's think of some of the challenges that forestry settlements may face. Firstly, there's deforestation, which leads to the loss of biodiversity and habitats because animals are losing their homes. There can be soil erosion and reduced water supply due to many plantations depleting the groundwater and loosening the soil. There's also the spread of invasive species that outcompete indigenous species for water and nutrients. And there is also the threat of forest fires, which can damage forests, kill wildlife, and damage property. Some human challenges include exposure to dangerous working conditions that can cause injuries or fatalities. The smoke from fires and sawdust in mills can also lead to respiratory illnesses such as asthma, bronchitis, and lung infections. Let's think of some solutions. Firstly, trees can be planted responsibly using a mix of species to control invasive plants. You can also give workers safety gear and training. You can prevent fires by building fire breaks and lookout towers. You can create other jobs that reduce pressure on forests, and you can involve the community by encouraging people to take part in protecting and managing forests. So to wrap up, rural settlements are small communities that depend on the land and natural resources. Farming can be for family use, which we call subsistence, or for profit, which is commercial farming. Forestry also plays an important role, whether through plantations or natural forests, which give us timber, fuel, and even medicine. But these activities face real challenges like soil erosion, pests, deforestation, high costs, and unsafe working conditions. That's why we need solutions like crop rotation, replanting, proper training, and involving local communities. At the end of the day, it's all about finding a balance between meeting human needs and protecting the environment, because that's the only way to achieve true sustainable development. Remember that we discussed 2 rural settlements which include farming and forestry. However, there are 2 more which include fishing and mining, which you can read up on. Here are our references if you wish to learn more. Thanks for watching and see you again soon. All the best and take care.